Right, so we're going to do just a little bit of color correction just to kind of get things going. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to create a solid and I'm going to make it kind of a dark blue. And I want to put that solid right in front of it. If it popped up at the top, drop it so it's right in front of your city background cutout. Now, I'm going to change the blending mode here. And if you look, you can see that you can do some different things, and each one is going to be a little bit different um, depending on what effect or look that you're going for. So as I kind of go through these, you can see how I can affect it. But one thing to take into account, if I press T, lower the transparency, you see I can, this is what my end goal is I'm going to darken the skies and have this sort of blue that's going on there. I'm just trying to figure out which one I'm going to like the most. So obviously that's too bright. Screening, no. Color dodge, that's cool, but not the look I'm going for. Overlay, that might actually be kind of cool. It's just not dark enough unless I kind of tweak it out a little bit. But you can see each of these is giving me a different kind of a look. And I will, well, that's kind of neat. Uh, I will basically be able to go in and make these adjustments, but ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, that's too stylized, and I'm going to basically go in, let's go back to multiply, something like that. And what I'm going to do is essentially go in and um, affect it so that I can actually adjust the opacity so that when I start powering up, things are going to get kind of dark and we're going to get this sort of effect here. So it really just depends on what the look is I'm going for. I still want to see some of those details, but I just want to darken it up. So let's say if I do a little test here, and you can see right around here, this is where things are getting dark. So I might start it off, let's say right about here, that it is normal. And let's just do it from the beginning. So I'm going to key the opacity to 0 at the beginning of this solid that's multiplied. And as we go to here, I want to bring it up like so to about 100%. Now, also when I look at this, I also want to adjust my green screen. So I'm going to go in and let's drop some curves on my green screen composite. And you see I can darken it or lighten it. So I can add just a little bit more contrast because I was a little bit too bright. And what I'm trying to do is match it just a little bit more to the scene so it's not, so it actually fits a little bit more. Because there's some darker areas, so I need a little bit darker areas here. Um, so with the curves, I can adjust the overall RGB, but also if I want to color correct, I can also start to add more red or orange inside of there. Adjust the blues. So I'm giving, pulling the red higher, the blue lower, and that's giving me a little bit more of a yellowish tint to kind of fit, or an orangey tint to fit a little bit more with the background. Um, so let's see what that looks like here. And we'll do something more radical, but that's kind of neat right there. If I really want to tweak things out as well, I could go back to the city and add some curves or levels to that as well. So let's just see what the difference is. If I go to levels, and drop levels on the background city. I have my midtones or my shadows, my midtones, and my highlights. So as I pull those out, you see I can adjust those as well, and just the midtones in between for contrast. So what that basically means is that if I go here and let's say I want to key the histogram of the levels on the background, and then as it's getting darker, I also want to tweak out, let's say, the midtones here. So I can pull up the highlights, pull the midtones in to get more contrast. So we get this effect where I still get some of that lighting. Now you'll notice that there's some lines that are kind of showing because the mask itself is not as clean. So if I go back to my mask, then I can go in and I can actually tweak those a little bit just to make sure that I'm lose those little highlights that are popping in there. So just doing a little bit of cleanup, and I can turn this off and on to see, oops, still some right here, see? So I'll pull that up, pull this over, turn this right here off and on, oops, a little bit over here, tighten that up, tighten this up, off and on. And what you can see is it makes it a lot easier for me, up right there. Got to pull this down a little bit. Pull this one down just a little bit. Turn it off and on. Much better. And this way I can go in and fine tune my masking to make sure that it's fitting to what I want. Let's say, okay, that looks cool. Let's go back in and we see, and that's looking nice right there. Now I'm going to go to my actual window cutout. And I might also want to tweak out some of at least do a preliminary kind of adjustment to this as well. There is a bit of bouncing back and forth, so I do have to kind of go back and forth between these guys to make sure that they are in sync. This is my color correcting. So if I have this background here, I could do levels on my Windows cutout layer. You see I can adjust the contrast, I can adjust the midtones, I can adjust the overall, like darken it out a little bit. So what I could do is like, oh, it starts out, it's like kind of bright. I'm thinking it needs a little more kind of reddish to it. Red orange. To kind of match the warmth of that light outside. And I might, so this is where you kind of color correct everything. So I'd go back to my guy here and may have to do the same. So let's put some levels on me. And I can go to my red. Let's go to my blue. And you see I'm kind of getting this lighter. So let's go back to RGB. And the idea is to try and match it so that it fits more with the background. And that's where we go in like, oh, do I need to adjust my green and pull that out a little bit? I need to adjust the overall, which is the white brightness or darkness of it. And how do I blend that with the background? So if I have all these guys in, and then I want to key them, that's where we go in. Okay, on this guy, let's key the histogram. Let's press U so we could see all the keys, so we can line it up that we're doing it where it's supposed to be. And maybe by the time we get here, things are going to darken. So that's my background. That's okay. Let's look at my cutout. So let's key the histogram on the cutout. And then as we go over to here, jinkies, not that, me. Let's key the, so it happens, key the histogram at the beginning on this. Let's key the histogram and the curves. And then as I go to here and darken it out to this point, don't want to get it too dark because then it's going to look weird. So I still want to keep that general. I just want to do a little bit of an overall. Maybe now I'll start to push the blue a little bit. And then maybe I will, in the interior, kind of push that more towards a blue. Let's go to this guy. So it's a little bit of messing around with it. And whether we're working with levels or curves. And then kind of balancing them between them and matching each other. And I can also, once again, do this trick here. So if I take this guy and let's duplicate him, but this time let's put him up here, or maybe even on top if I wanted to. So you can see, depending on where I place it, I can just do this overall effect. And maybe this effect here might be something a little bit different. It's not lighting. So we still want to keep our screen, our highlights and our shadows. We still want to get those values in there. So just testing out like certain things. And remember, if I press U, I can make it that maybe it doesn't go in quite as much. So we have a few different options for this. Let's go, where's my, there we are. And I could even go in with this top one and do an elliptical mask. So hold down Control Shift like this. Now we could see the edge here. Let's go to this mask. Let's invert it. And let's feather that. So then as we look at this image here and what it's affecting, this could do a lot of things. This could also be, now that I have this, and let's go in and drop some curves on just that shape. So this literally could just be sort of a little bit of a vignette. You see how it's like darkening or affecting that background here, depending on what we're doing with it. It's so I could have it there. I could have it more in the interior, and then maybe it's doing something like a dodge just in this area and blending out. And then I could even darken the outside a little bit, but and then we'll start to affect it. But that gives us just a little bit of an idea of just balancing some stuff out. And we're going to do more, but we need to start tracking the hand and seeing what these effects are going to do.